Hi, this is Daniel Hutchins, and today we are going to be doing another mega long article discussion video, and we are doing it from comicbooks.com. So, from our friends from comicbooks.com, we're going to be talking about a lot of different information in this video. So, I hope you just lay back, you sit back, you enjoy, and I'll talk about some news. Okay. So without further ado, the first article I want to talk about is The Mandalorian. So, with The Mandalorian, director Robert Rodriguez reveals his first reaction to reading a script. And this was yesterday. So fans were immensely excited when they had learned that director Robert Rodriguez would helm an episode of Mandalorian. Okay, so as the filmmaker has shown off his impressive directing ambition with films like Sin City, Alita Battle Angel, and Planet Terror, though those sound like the only one more excited about the opportunity was Rodriguez himself. He felt as though he was living his 12-year-old dreams merely by seeing the names in the script. Given the fact that his episode of the series, Chapter 14, The Tragedy, saw that the first live-action exploits of Boba Fett following his seeming demise with Star Wars Return of the Jedi, he isn't the only one who waited decades to see such an adventure brought to life. Okay, so it was my 12-year-old dream, Rodriguez detailed to Collider. When I was 12, when Star Wars The Empire Strikes came out, I was a huge Boba Fett fan. You know, they would tease him out of before the movie came out. You already knew he was going to be a character to watch. The marketing for him was really great. Like, the character Boba Fett, and so when you saw the movie, you couldn't wait to see him. He captured your imagination more than ever before with the movie when it even came out. It's also noted that all we were talking about at school. Still remember that though, but how mysterious this character was. You got a little taste of him, but you were waiting to see some more. Okay, so we kind of all have that feeling sometimes though. But as far as official canon goes, there was no reason to suspect that Fett had survived his encounter with the Sarlacc in Star Wars Return of the Jedi. Despite there being a number of legends and stories exploring such a trajectory for this character, with that in regard, Rodriguez was seemingly bewildered at the notion of getting to bring a character to life. Okay, so when he saw the script, he sent to me the script. I said, Boba Fett and Darksaber and Mando and Fennec. I was just like, this doesn't even feel like a real script. But it feels like a fan wrote this in a fever dream hoping that this would be an episode. Rodriguez had joked, and yes, this was the script. It had all the good stuff in it. It was like the greatest hits of all the good stuff, and I couldn't believe it. To go play in Star Wars with all the toys and get to play with Boba Fett as one of your main characters, I just thought, I gotta go in there and just have him be. I don't know if he's going to show up any more episodes, but so I'm just gotta make him super badass in the moment and be that character that I imagined him being. When I heard about him when I was 12, that was my mission, just to go satisfy that 12-year-old fascination with this character. Okay, so while this premiere episode of the second season teased for Fett's return, Rodriguez's episode will surely go down as a historic moment for the character, as it had marked the first time fans saw a bounty hunter in his armor in live action since 1983, minus his addition to a deleted scene of Star Wars A New Hope in 1997. Okay, so what do you think of the filmmaker's remark? You can let us know in the comments below, or you can contact this person called Patrick Conave directly from Twitter to talk all things about Star Wars and more. Okay, so I'm going to do another bonus. Okay, I just gotta find the right bonus. Okay, hold up guys, I'm just chilling and figuring out what I'm gonna play next. Okay. Let's see, comics. Okay. Okay, so this is also a new article from yesterday. This is also a new article from yesterday. It's about the Zack Snyder Justice League, and it may be getting a DC comic expansion. Okay. So Zack Snyder's version of the DC universe may soon extend into comics. Okay, so Scott Snyder, the acclaimed Batman and Justice League comic writer, no relation to Zack, took part in a panel at this weekend's Comic-Con Experience virtual event, with the discussion mostly for Snyder to promote his new American Vampire 1976 series. He did touch on some of his mainstream DC comic work, but according to Omelette, who sponsored the event, Scott Snyder at one point said that DC Comics had asked him to help with the comic adaptation and expansion of the Justice League Snyder Cut mythology that Zack Snyder is doing for HBO Max. Okay, so Scott Snyder half-jokingly said he turned the job down because I had a lot of jobs ahead of me, and he can't deal with people confusing us anymore. So Scott Snyder turned the job down, but that doesn't mean the DC Comics didn't pass the offer onto someone else, though. The Snyder Cut may still soon expand into comics. And with Snyder's DC Comics movies already having some comic history, like Man of Steel had a prequel comic focusing on Kara Zor-El, aka Supergirl. Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice had 9 tie-in comics. There were 5 digital first comics, each focusing on a different character from these movies. Batman, Lois Lane, Senator Finch, Superman, and Lex Luthor. There are also 4 General Mills Presents Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice comics packed in cereal boxes. Okay, so HBO Max has also gotten into the comics tie-in game as well. So DC Comics turned the streaming board for itself into a trio of superheroes. The publishers also released a free digital prequel comic for HBO Max original sci-fi series, Raised by Wolves. Okay, so Zack Snyder is bringing back the Justice League cast to shoot 5 minutes of additional footage, with new looks for the Joker as well. The production of the 4-hour cut is costing HBO Max upwards of $70 million. And if you said to any of these actors in the movie, well, what happens in the movie, or what happens later, or whatever from any movie, and they go well. I got the script. It's very cool, and I kind of noticed, and so Ray Porter and I were talking about this and what's cool and what's the right response to some of these questions. And Snyder said previously, it's a fair question to ask me, like, what do I say to the world about, what happens when Darkseid comes to Earth? Then what, is that a thing? I mean, and I think, listen, and the truth is that I did write and I did have to conceive a complete do I know what happens when Darkseid? Yes, I do know what happens. To say and speculate about what that may be, and that would be exciting. I think that's a fine thing, though. And then Zack Snyder's Justice League debut on HBO Max in 2021. Okay. So we are going to be doing some more bonuses. Okay. We just gotta try to find some bonuses. Okay. This is fairly recent, just a couple days ago, in fact. DC announces new creative teams for Batman, Superman, Harley Quinn, and more. Okay, so DC Comics fans have a lot of things to look forward to in the months ahead, as the Future State event will be plunging its overall line into entirety new territory. The 2-month line-wide event is set to bring a lot of new things into canon. We're starting to get some details regarding what DC will look like following the events of Future State, including the reveals of new creative teams for some major titles during one of DC's Future State panels during Brazil's CCXP World Virtual Convention. The publishers revealed that a new creative team for Detective Comics and Batman and Superman and Harley Quinn. Okay, so this writer named Mariko Tamaki, Wonder Woman, Harley Quinn, Breaking Glass, and artist Dan Mora, Power Rangers Once and Future, will be serving as the new creative team for Detective Comics. Beginning with March's Detective Comics number 1034, this will be the latest partnership between Tamaki and Moore after set to work on the Future State Dark Detective Limited series in January-February, and then they also previously worked on a story, The Gift in Detective Comics number 1027. Okay, so it was also announced that Stephanie Phillips, Superman, the Butcher of Paris, and Riley Rosmo, Martian Manhunter and Hellblazer, will be partnering on Harley Quinn beginning in March, and Phillips is set to write the Future State for Harley Quinn miniseries in January and February. And Rosmo previously worked on character in Harley Quinn Black, White, and Red, as well as in a story in the Joker 80th Anniversary 100-page Super Spectacular. Okay, so additionally, it was announced that Jean Luen Yang, the Terrifics in Shang-Chi, and Ivan Reis, Captain Marvel Green Lantern, will be contributing to Batman and Superman. Beginning with issue number 16, Yang will be writing the Future State with Batman and Superman miniseries. Has been previously written The Man of Steel on the beloved adaptation of Superman Smashes the Clang. Race has worked on Superman multiple times over the years, including on a stretch of issues in the Rebirth run. Okay. This joins a slew of other creative teams that will be announced following Future State, with Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad taking over Wonder Woman with issue number 770. Future State will provide fans with fresh takes on these characters that we know and love, with some unexpected surprises along the way, which is kind of figures. But then, DC Universe has always been fertile ground for new and refreshing takes on our characters. And DC Future State definitely contributes to its legacy. DC Executive Editor Marie Javins said when the event was first announced, and when the event begins in January, some savvy readers will not only pick up some of the breadcrumbs that have been tossed out on the current titles, but will also find new hints and clues of what's to come for 2021. Okay, now what do you think of the newest details surrounding DC's future following with Future State? Share your thoughts with the comments in my video. Okay, so I'm going to be doing some more bonuses now, since I'm kind of on a roll right now. We just have to find the right stuff. Okay. Okay. So, the next news I want to share is the Suicide Squad. So the Suicide Squad, James Gunn says the movie is almost finished. Okay, so the Suicide Squad is definitely one of the most highly anticipated movies to come out next year, taking into effect that on the eclectic DC Comics ensemble, set to arrive in theaters and on HBO Max next August. Okay, fans are incredibly excited to see the film, especially after this cast reveal and behind the scenes sizzle reels were both released at DC Fandom earlier this year. Okay, so while the film's presence at Brazil's CXP World's Virtual Convention on Sunday didn't really provide new footage for this film, it did, however, include a surprising new update from a writer-director, James Gunn. Okay, so during this panel, Gunn revealed that the cut of the Suicide Squad is done, and that remaining work on this film includes various post-production elements. Okay, so that's all good. And then everything has been going really, really well. But the movie is completely done in terms of the cut of the film, Gunn explained. It's really just working with the visual effects that are left, and the music and the sounds, but they're so close. This will surely delight fans who have been looking forward to the film, especially as Gunn has reassured that this film was still on schedule amid from the COVID-19 pandemic, and that it would presumably make an August 2021 release date, with Gunn currently re-teaming with the Suicide Squad's John Cena on a Peacemaker spin-off series for HBO Max. It's also safe to say that the world of the film is going to be explored even further. Okay, So, the Suicide Squad will follow a ragtag roster of anti-heroes and supervillains from the DC canon, and we will see the return of Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, Margaret Robbie as Harley Quinn, Joel Kinnaman as Colonel Rick Flag, and Jay Courtney as Captain Boomerang from the 2016 Suicide Squad. Okay, so those are your classic characters. But then joining them in the film are David Dastmalchian as Polka Dot Man, Steve McGee as King Shark, Daniela Melchior as Ratcatcher 2, Idris Elba as Bloodsport, John Cena as Peacemaker, Nathan Fillion as TDK, Pete Davidson as Blackguard, Flua Borg as Javelin, Mei Ling Ning as Mongal, Peter Capaldi as the Thinker, Michael Rooker as Savant, Alice Braga as Sol Surya, and Sean Gunn as Weasel. Okay? So, you want to go to work with people who jump out of bed every day and want to go to work, Cena said in previous interviews. Gunn is the epitome of that. He cares so much about what he's doing, and I think especially when he's put in a position to write, develop, and do this by his rules essentially, he chose this franchise. He kind of dictated his terms, and now he's really betting on himself. And I hope everybody enjoys seeing it as much as we're enjoying it, because it's awesome. What do you think of the Suicide Squad almost being finished? Share your thoughts in the comments in my video. And Suicide Squad is set to be released both in theaters and on HBO Max August 6th of 2021. Okay. So we are going to do a couple more bonuses. Okay. Okay, so this was actually several days ago, but okay, this is news from the 1st of December. Batman and Catwoman #1 review a complex tale of justice earns the hype. Okay, to say that Tom King's Batman Catwoman has been eagerly anticipated is something of an understatement. Since King's return on the Batman title ended, cutting short what had been built up as a momentous 100-issue run, as well as offered a more concrete ending for Bruce and Selina's love story. As it were, readers have been eager to see where the story would go from the next for the lovers, with that anticipation only growing as more details emerge, including the introduction of Andrea Beaumont to the story now. That it is finally here, and that Batman and Catwoman isn't a perfect issue. It certainly does deliver on with the hype. Okay? So Batman and Catwoman tells the story split between two timelines, the present day and the future. The future is one that readers have already glimpsed in the King's story from Catwoman 80th Anniversary Special, in which Bruce has died, leaving behind Selina and an adult Helena. The new issue picks up from that thread by having Selena travel to visit an old friend and inform them of Bruce's passing. In the present, Bruce receives a visit from the believed dead Andrea Beaumont, his first love, who is looking for Batman's help finding her missing son. Okay, so immediately notable about Batman and Catwoman is that this story, at least in its opening chapter, is all about the women. Okay, so Selena is visiting her old friend just as much to find some sort of resolution for Andrea years into the future. Okay, so while Andrea's immediate concern resolves in the present and sets her onto a dark path, what is striking about this and what works so well is that the story sets things up to make Selena and Andrea allies in a sense. All too frequently, stories that feature two women who share a romantic interest immediately sets the two women as rivals. Well, kind of figures. But then King instead has Selena support Andrea. She searches for Andrea's son in the present, the future, and is seeking justice. Okay. So, what also works here is that the first issue is Catwoman's story. Through King's narration, done in a typically sparse style. A refreshing change from the text-heavy work of James Tynion, number 4, on Batman. It's clear that despite choosing to be with Bruce and modifying this approach to vigilantism, as a result, Selena has remained utterly herself. The final pages reveal a woman who has remained true to herself, fully intends on doing exactly what needs to be done. Killing the person who devastated Andrea's life. Okay, that's a bit drastic, but okay. There's a twist here, and that won't surprise anyone, as King doesn't exactly do suspense well. Even though the unexpected red herring of the Sewer King is a nice touch, seeing Selena show herself even after Batman is absolutely thrilling. Okay. So, however, while King crafts a pleasurable and well-written story, Clayman's art paired with Tim Murray's color is an absolute chef's kiss of perfection in Batman Catwoman number 1. Given the fact that with each page communicating far more than words ever could, a particular beauty in this issue is that the treatment of Andrea, who goes from warm and loving to seemingly dead behind her eyes, over this course of the story, with Mann and Mori delivering the impact from trauma, heartbreak, and loss, and could have on a person in a single image. It's all in her eyes, with an astounding fit for a piece of art, as it conveys a full spectrum of human emotions. All of this praise, however, doesn't come without some complaints. Revealing so early that Selena is seeking justice for Andrea seems an odd choice, as readers don't have any indication of a real bond between these women, besides the shared love for Bruce. Okay, so while this feels like something the rest of the series will bear out, it's a bit of a head-scratcher, as I'm head-scratching. In the first issue, there's also a casual mention of Helena Wayne's sexual orientation, which, while framed as being part of normal conversations, also seems inauthentic. There are also some revelations about the Joker that seem curious, making his future version of some of the DC's most iconic characters seem too pleasant or too sanitized. It's all lovely though, but it feels very plastic. It's that artificial feel of things that brings the entirety of Batman Catwoman #1 down a bit. Certainly, the fact that Catwoman fans will be thrilled. Andrea Beaumont fans, myself included, will love seeing her portrayed with such humanity. From the fans of King's Batman run, we'll be especially happy to read this familiar tone and dynamic again. Batman and Catwoman #1 is a good issue, and it will just be interesting to see at what point the weaknesses here collide with King's standard storytelling tropes, and to shift things for the better or for the worse. Okay, this book was published by DC Comics and December 1st of 2020, written by Tom King, art by Craig Mann, colors by Tom Murray, letters by Clayton Cowles. Okay. So, I'm going to put a shirt on because you probably noticed that I'm not wearing a shirt. So, I'm probably going to put a shirt on. I just have to figure out what I'm going to wear. Yeah. I'm just going to put on one of my old shirts. Okay. Okay, so now I'm a little bit more comfortable. And I bet you guys don't know this, but I am currently multitasking. I'm watching some Amazon video, and I am currently trying to do this video at the same time. Okay? So sorry if I had to get off topic. So we are going to be doing one more bonus, if we can find one, that is. And yeah, so okay. So the last bonus that I want to share from comicbooks.com is in regards with Batman Beyond. Okay? So Batman Beyond's origin gets a major tweak thanks to Booster Gold. This was from last month. Okay? So the origin story of Terry McGinnis, the center of Batman Beyond, got very significant tweaks in this issue of comics. The character, originally created for TV, appearing in the New Future DC Universe, didn't have dozens or hundreds of masked Avengers on duty. However, that now has a modern-day DC superhero or two, thanks for the events of his origin. Okay, so even if he doesn't know, it's the kind of quiet tweak to a mythology that writer Dan Jurgens used to slip into his run on Booster Gold all the time, which makes perfect sense. After all, it was Booster, and cooperation with Bruce Wayne from the future, who was responsible for this change. From in a story that saw Booster and his robot pal Skeets team up with both Batman, history has reshaped. Or is it just shaped? Spoilers ahead for Batman Beyond number 49 in stores now. So in the previous issue, Batman was attacked by his version of Bruce Wayne, and Booster Gold appears in the Batcave to whisk him away from the past. Bruce had already killed Terry's younger brother. Booster had won, but it can still be stopped by going back in time and preventing it. Okay. So, not just going back 10 minutes and getting Terry and Matt out of the Batcave. Instead, Booster said Bruce Wayne had been implanted with a psychic suggestion back from 2020 during a battle with a villain named Blanc. While trying to intercede, Terry found himself rescuing young boy who turned out to be his own father. Ooh, okay. So that leads us to this week's issue. Or that week's issue, because, this article's outdated, but anyway. Which recaps Batman Beyond's origin story after stopping members of the Joker's gang from attacking an older Bruce Wayne. Terry McGinnis took on the mantle of Batman. He got home that day, though, and learned that his father had been killed by those same Jokers. But then followed later after an investigation, Terry found out that they weren't actually retaliating against him, but that the Jokers had been sent after his father when his dad alerted the authorities to the laws being broken by the company he worked for. Okay, so after his death, Bruce Wayne apparently found some old journals belonging to Warren Ginnis, including one with entries that suggested he had been rescued by Batman when Blanc attacked in 2020. Okay, so the twist. The Batman described in a journal entry and said had Terry's costume, one that hadn't even been designed yet in 2020. Assuming that time travel had been involved, Bruce reached out to Booster Gold to make sure history played out the way that it was supposed to. Okay, so sometimes Booster has the unpleasant task of making sure bad things happen. If Terry hadn't gone back in time to save his father, it's possible that his father may have died then and there. Even though if he didn't, that journal entry indicated as some of the moral compass that had led him to blow the whistle on corrupt business practices came to a result of a pep talk he received from Terry as Batman when he was a kid. And without meeting Terry, it's possible that he could have survived but never made the decisions he had, and that Terry would never have become Batman. Okay, so these revelations came from Bruce Wayne and an older cloaked version of Booster Gold, who met with Bruce in the Batcave after McGinnis boys left. Bruce never really went crazy though, but yet they revealed and Matt was never in any danger. Instead, it was all a show to get Terry to travel back to 2020. Okay. So comments made by Bruce helping Booster wrestle with the decision to do something they knew would ultimately get one killed. Maybe a nod to a pair of stories that happened in 2018, when Booster appeared in both Action Comics along Superman and in monthly Batman titles. And the Superman story, also written by Jurgens, Booster and Skeets had to prevent Superman from traveling back to witness the destruction of Krypton. Man of Steel thought that it might clarify claims made from supervillain, who said he was Jor-El, and he escaped Krypton's destruction. But Booster worried that even just being there could damage the time stream, since Superman may not be able to resist trying to save a planet full of innocent people, given that including his parents being destroyed. Now, if all those concerns weren't entirely unfounded, and the Jurgens were in Time Master's vanishing point, Superman had been tempted to help people suffer from the bubonic plague. But Booster and Rip Hunter told Superman that doing so could compromise a timeline, and that those people's death weren't necessary to keep time intact. They may also note that there may be something to be said for this Batman Beyond story, in which it turns out Warren was inspired the greatness by his son, without ever knowing that, since that is exactly the relationship that Booster Gold and his mentor Rip Hunter, whom the younger Booster doesn't realize is his own son. Okay, so the 2018 Batman story, written by Tom King, saw Booster travel back in time to save Bruce Wayne's parents from being murdered in order to give Batman a wedding present he would never forget. Okay, so before the timeline could be reset to make sure they died and Bruce became Batman, the Bruce Wayne of the altered timeline attacked Booster, leading to a story in which the Waynes survived, but villains weren't able to overrun Gotham. At the time, Booster Gold fans argued that his actions didn't make any sense, given that his character and his role as Time Master, and although Jurgens never directly addressed this story, it is possible to read into some of Bruce's comments an implicit commentary on the Batman-Booster team-up. Batman Beyond number 49 is available in comic book stores and the purchase digitally through Comixology, Google Play, and other ebook storefront. The 50th and final issue of the series will be in stores in December. Okay, so again, this article is outdated. So, yeah. So, this video is going very, very, very long, as you probably imagine. And yeah, so we are 43 minutes in this video, and I figured, oh yeah, so you guys can make sure you leave comments down below, and then if you like this content, hit a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe. And I might be doing another video later in the day, given the fact that it is already Tuesday and it is almost 1 in the morning, and I'm like, okay, so you might see me again for another video later in the day. That's still to be determined, though. So yeah, I hope you learned something from this discussion, and I know that during the time I was making this video, there were moments where I felt a little bit uncomfortable as I was laying on my bed, and you don't have to worry because I'm fine now. And so I'm just going to just chill and just enjoy the rest of my evening. And I hope you guys enjoy your evening, and you guys have a nice day. Bye.